Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our weekly roundup of what is happening on Dog Podcast Network. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii.
And I'm Claire Mansell in London, England.
Thank you so much for being with us. And we're starting to get a little bit of a listenership to this live show, both live and on the tape replay. So that's kind of exciting. We are talking first about some shows that are new this week on DPN. Claire, do you want to take it away with Dog Cancer Answers?
Yep. And I was also going to drop in, you say we got this listenership on our lives, and you've also got a clever gadget, so if people comment or give us any reactions on any of these lives, you can
certain platforms.
You can make
if you're live on LinkedIn, I don't know, wherever you're watching us, you can comment and we can push a picture up. We're technology.
Yeah, try your luck. So this week it's Dog Edition Hound Headlines number 2. So this is the new unscripted show which we're trying, and also which this week we've done in video. So we've done it as a full sort of video podcast. Are they still video podcasts? There was a time when somebody thought that they might be vodcasts.
There are. I think you can find them on Apple, and you can find them on
Spotify. Is the name?
Is
it vodcast or because that was proposed as the name for a video podcast.
I think it's still video podcast or just videos, because really, there was a thing, and not too long ago when I first started. Not too long ago, but when I went to a conference at the National Association of Broadcasters in Las Vegas. Before I launched DPN, and there was this research that had come out about people's favorite tools app to listen to a podcast, and the favorite tool based on international surveys was this little thing called YouTube, and all the stuck in the mud, podcasters who think this is about RSS. We're like, no, that's not a real podcast. It doesn't really matter. A podcast is whatever you think it is, and it's good content, which is what we do here, hopefully at DPN.
Yeah. So
video, audio.
That was a really long way of explaining the fact that this week we have a proper live, not live. What am I trying to say? Video version of the
even different
the podcast. Yeah. So you can listen to it just as an audio podcast via your normal app, or you can go to YouTube and you can watch it as well as listening to it, or you can sort of have it like while you're in the kitchen. You can kind of have it on the phone and you can kind of look back occasionally and see us at the same time, which is quite cool. So anyway, Hound Headlines this week, we're looking at some of the news stories about dogs that have been in the news in the last week. So check that out. Dog cancer answers this week. Dog cancer risk linked to size with Dr. Jules. This is very interesting. They've done some research, looked at the likelihood of developing cancer based on the size of the dog. But not just that, they've also looked at some of the most common cancer types and whether it varied the size of the dog, whether some cancers were more likely in bigger or smaller dogs, etc., and how it affected the prognosis of the dog after they were diagnosed. So very, very interesting.
And the gist of it is that size does matter. And what's kind of interesting is how this research was conducted. It was not done by a university per se. It was done by Nationwide Pet Insurance, which is a big pet insurance company in America. So obviously the pet insurance companies have a very vested interest in understanding these types of phenomena for underwriting purposes.
Absolutely.
And so there's a great bunch of data that they have that is actually going to help veterinary science in general, because they are really looking at things that you only really look at if you have a financial interest, perhaps.
Yes.
So it's kind of it's a really good bringing together of insurance and medicine.
And should we talk about my association with veterinary science this week, or should we do that?
We should. Shall we? So we are considering doing an episode of Dog Edition called the $1,000 1,000-pound visit, because both Claire and I have recently given $1,000 or more to veterinarians.
Yes. So you had an incident with Chloe with pancreatitis, was And my dog, who's very healthy, went in a fraction of a second from being very healthy to very expensive because she ran through some undergrowth and cut her paw on some broken glass, really quite deeply as well. And that turned into a £1,000 bill. Although I have to say, I looked, my vet has been absolutely fantastic. And I looked at the itemization that they did for the estimate, and there was nothing on there that I could point at and go, well, that's a rip-off. It was that when you break it down and you understand, and particularly things like anesthetizing the dog, you've got to have someone supervising that requires a lot of knowledge and everything else that goes with it. So I don't want to say I think it was great value, because that sounds a bit flippant, oh, I'd love to spend that money again. But I don't equally feel like I've been had by them. I know I can see where the costs are. And I went back today to get her bandage changed. And in fact, they were able to take the bandage off and not put another one on. And as I walked out of the door, they said, no charge for this visit. I was like, yes.
Thank you. You busted a show idea. Yeah, well, I've looked at my bill. They don't quite have the same reaction.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, it's not.
Well, that's the US for you, Jim.
I think a lot of the bill was, I like to pay for services. I think tests are really interesting because the economics of tests are fascinating, and there's a lot of margin in tests. And if you do a lot of tests, you have a lot of data, which is good. And the tests have a really big margin because it's like, this is how much. So I personally like to pay for services. I like to pay for, like them doing something. But
that's really interesting that you should say that, because when they asked me if I was insured, and I am not currently insured, but that's a whole other conversation. When I said I wasn't, they said, okay, well, we'll leave off the blood test that we would normally do. That would be £70. And I said, well, why are you doing blood tests? And the vet sort of said, well, just in case. I was like,
it's the just in case or cover your thing that I find frustrating, and I think that will be part of our little investigation.
And that would have been nearly $100 just for that bit. So
the cost of the vet is de minimis. It's high profit. They gotta, we'll start actually, and we're doing more investigative journalism here at DPN to uncover some things, because you have told us that's what you want to hear. And so we are going to be doing it, but we're going to be looking at the cost, some of the costs. We've done previous episodes on various shows on Dog Podcast Network, but it does get expensive, and there seems to be this really interesting $1,000 dollar a pound break off, which is like, okay, that's what they'll spend.
And I put a poll, funnily enough, on Twitter, on our Twitter account, about how much people have spent, what their biggest vet bill is. So that would be really interesting to see the results of that and see. Now, one positive about this, we talk a lot about telemedicine and, particularly since COVID, how that has evolved. Mm-hmm. Well, one very sort of low tech thing that we've able to use now is, they said to me, on about Wednesday next week, will you take a picture of her stitches and send it to us, and we'll tell you whether you need to come in or not to have them looked at. And that's such a simple thing, where that would normally be a vet trip that you would go in and you would pay the standard fee. Somebody would look at it and go, yeah, it's fine.
The trauma of bringing the dog in the car and doing everything. And meanwhile, that's really wonderful. I love telemedicine on so many levels. Partly because we're on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and but it's just so much more convenient to have an appointment where or snap a picture is even better. I like that.
Yeah. So
during the pandemic, I had a sty on my eye, and I didn't know what to do, and so I found this guy. I went to Dr. Google. I found this guy called Sty Guy, Dr. Sty Guy.
No!
And literally, he's a guy in New York who is an ophthalmologist. He's like, send me the picture. Pay this thing, send me the thing. And then he did. He looked at it, because it's not like he needs to touch it. He just needs to look at it. And we all have super big cameras now that can megapixel. And he's able to, do it from this angle, this angle, this angle. And then he says, yeah, you have a sty. And And which is like, great, thank
You
you.
went to a guy called Sty Guy, and he told you have a sty, and you paid money for this.
And he gave me but he wrote a prescription.
Oh, okay.
So that I was able to pick up at my local pharmacy. And he was in New York, I was in Hawaii. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's, things like that. I know there's some other stuff in veterinary medicine where, like the stitches, I've heard about other things in terms of allergies. There's a lot of stuff where you can go to an expert. In fact, a lot of the things that, when we get into the cost the veterinarians charge, a lot of the stuff that is done, they do the test locally in the lab, in the vet surgery, as they call it, in the hospital, and then they analyze it based on the results that come out of the machine. But you still want a specialist to look at, especially radiograph or x-rays and things like that. And this is no longer the day of like sending the radiology, it's all done electronically. So there's a guy probably sitting in his home in Hawaii who's a radiologist who's looking at this thing, but they will expedite it. You can pay extra to have it today. I remember that was an option. It was $100 for an to have it today versus having it tomorrow. I'm like, those are the things that we're going to kind of look at, because I'm not quite sure that that's tough. Anyway, moving on.
Interesting to find out. Now, I think, Jim, we should probably, having taken up 11.5 minutes already, I think we should probably save one of these stories we were going to talk about for Hound Headlines. Maybe that middle one,
Okay.
But I was just going to give a shout out to the fact that today in the UK is a very exciting day. I have to thank Mabush Dog Therapy for alerting me to this fact on Facebook today. It is National Dog Biscuit Day.
You guys take it very seriously, and I think it's important. Because when I think of England, I think of dog biscuits.
Oh, obviously.
So this is the UK thing, and Americans cannot take it. This is fully yours. So congratulations.
It has been celebrated, if you can imagine that, in a few sort of publications today, because they kind of latched onto it and thought, well, let's write something about dog biscuits. And I clicked on a few articles. It was like 10 of the most amazing facts about dog biscuits. And I was thinking, you really have struggled to find 10 facts about dog biscuits. The most interesting one I found is that there was a record dog biscuit made in the USA.
America. We are,
of course, because you love everything big, don't you?
We're big in America. So yeah, it was probably made in Texas.
Probably.
So we like big biscuits. So
19 foot long, 3.8 feet wide, and it weighed 617 pounds. I don't know what they did with it afterwards. I'd like to think that they took it to like a shelter and put it in the middle of the yard and let all the dogs go on top of it. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, happy National Dog Biscuit Day, UK.
Yeah. And the other one I was going to quickly mention is the longest dog tongue, because
They're kind of related.
Yeah, they are, actually, strangely. Quite seriously, I have for a long time thought that Maple could be in the running for this. I'm genuinely not taking the pee here. Yeah. She's got a really, really long tongue, and I did look it up quite a while ago to see if she had the longest tongue. And I think at the time it was held by another record holder who I seem to remember was sort of a bulldoggy type dog. It's obviously. This is one of those.
This is truly certified by the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't just like some tabloid coming out with this.
This is the proper thing. And of course, it has a turnover probably every 10 years or so, doesn't it? Because dogs generally take a while to get certified, and then it's only the living dog, so dogs don't live forever. And so the current holder is Bisbee, who is a English setter, and Bisbee's tongue is 9.5 centimeters long, or 3.74 inches long. And they measure it obviously from the tip of the tongue to sort of where it goes into the mouth, not to the back. You don't have to like stick.
Because if they go to the back,
no. It's just where it hangs out. And as I say, the previous record holder I looked at the tongue and thought, no, that's quite long. But this one, I think I'm going to get the tape measure out for Maple.
And will you take a video of that and share that on social media?
Yes.
I would like to see, because first of all, Maple these days has a cone on.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah, I might have to wait for the measuring of the tongue till after the cone's off, possibly.
No, perhaps not though, because nothing is more adorable to show how much we really love our dogs, and not only putting a cone on, but like measuring their tongues.
Yeah,
We are dog lovers here.
Yeah.
No, but we'd like to see that, and I think it's important to share that information with everyone.
Yeah. Okay. But seriously, I mean, I'm quite excited about this, that we might have a Guinness Records holder in our house. I mean, because it's not. I don't feel it's going to be me at any point. I'm not going to get a record for anything, but the dog might.
That would be really exciting and extraordinary, and then maybe we can track that. Anyway, I don't want to get our hopes up too high, because I think
I mean, imagine the publicity, Jim.
Gosh.
When the newspapers got hold of the fact that the dog, the new record holder was owned by somebody who worked for the Dog Podcast Network. Just think that would just like
Mabel might need her own contract. Yeah. She may be covered. That is pretty extraordinary. So these are the types of things that we talk about on Dog Podcast Network. Sometimes very serious things like cancer, and sometimes things a little bit more frivolous like long tongues and big biscuits. If this sounds like the type of stuff that you would like to hear more of, please visit our website, because we have a whole bunch of podcasts, and you can find it at shows.dogpodcastnetwork.com or dogpodcastnetwork.com, and then /shows. There are lots of ways of getting to it, because we have a whole bunch of new shows. We are also hiring. I mentioned this last week, and the bump in folks who are looking for jobs. We have one position out that has 1,500 applicants already. We do get a lot of people who apply every time we post a job. And if you are looking for one, you can find out more about what we have on offer right now at dogpodcastnetwork.com/jobs.
I've just written down long tongues and big biscuits, because I know we've done those stories, but now I want to redo those stories so that we can call the next Hound Headlines, / long tongues and big biscuits. I'd listen to an episode called that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Weird long
tongues and weird long big biscuits.
Serious journalism here at DPN.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is our live for this week. I want to thank you for joining us, and please do check us out and tell a friend about Dog Podcast Network, because it helps us grow and get more listeners. See ya.
Aloha.